Sali, heute zusammen und grüezi miteinander. Welcome to the fourth edition of the Swiss-German Initiative. My name is Fabian. I want to pick up where I stopped the last time during the segment Holier Than Thou. Just checking the stream, 1 second. And it's up and running. Nice. So, as I mentioned, the Swiss, or at this point Uri, Schwyz and Unterwald, swore an oath to conspire against the House of Habsburg, with the sentence all for one and one for all. So the Three Musketeers created the Federation, aka the Celtic Star Trek. Let's have a closer look at the oath taking. To this day, if you swear an oath in Switzerland, you raise your thumb, index finger and middle finger, and then you say your sentence, or whatever you have to say. So, fingers and schwören. Now the fingers are named exactly the same as in German. So thumb, Daumen, thumb, Daumen. Index finger is actually called the point finger, so Zeigefinger. Then middle finger and ring finger are named the same, and the pinky is called the Kleinfinger, so kleiner Finger. I always find it interesting when you see a word which is practically the same as in English, where the German word is way farther apart. So here you see that you simply can replace the B with a E, and yeah, you get thumb or Daumen. Another word would be daddy, which is exactly the same, which the English version would be daddy. But daddy is not used everywhere. It's more like Innerschweiz and places like that. You wouldn't hear it that much in Zurich. Then, to get the naming of the hand, you get the Knödli, which are the knuckles. Now, this stems from Knöchel in German. But I'm not sure. It sounds like a combination from Knödli and Knöchel, because Knödli would be a lump. But I'm not sure. It just sounds like that, and I didn't really look it up. So, and then we have schwören and verschwören. Schwören is one-to-one swear in English. The difference is that we don't have swear words, we only have curse words. Oh, I didn't click. Now, this brings me to the prefix ver. The prefix ver is kind of a weird one. So if you want to see a German-speaking person squirm, ask him for the definition for the prefix ver. There isn't really a single one. This bugged me because in usual German fashion everything is structured and well defined, and I even went so far to read a paper regarding the whole High German and how ver was used, and then it was called vier, for or for, depending on the dialect. And nope, not a single definition. It boils down actually to three meanings which intersect. So you have doing it wrong or wrongly something, position or change of it, or state or change of it. Now, if you go and read how you actually should learn that, you get told that there are so many different meanings that you simply learn the words and those meanings. A bit like phrasal verbs in English. Which is true, but I think you can also try and look at this filter through this lens. And as well, if I ask a native speaker what ver irgendetwas, so ver something means, he'll actually will try to explain this lens. So it would be correct in about 80% of the time, and I think it helps for conversations if you keep this in mind. So you still can understand it even if you don't understand the word exactly. To illustrate this lens, I choose a couple of words which have the ver prefix. Excuse me. So, versauen. Versauen isn't a polite term, but it's used a lot. Sau is a saw, so a female pig. It means messing up something or messing up a relation, or failing at something. So, as examples, ich has versaut means I screwed up. Ich has mit der Miriam versaut, or put in whichever name you want, means I messed up the friendship or relationship with Miriam. Versau mir den Tisch nicht. Don't mess up the table. Or don't make the table dirty. It can also be used if you build something. So, versaust es dann nicht, meaning you should not screw up the build. One sec. Okay. And last one is bist auch ein versaut, which would be you're a bit nasty, which has a sexual connotation. And yeah. So, continue, verlieren. This has an English equivalent, which would be forlorn. But I never used that word or heard it before prior to preparing for this stream. So, yeah, I just read it. And the Lyre actually stems from a Proto-West Germanic word, which would be lösen, so release or disconnect. Also lösen, something like that. And the verlieren means to lose something or someone. Then we have vertrieben. So treiben means drift or lead a herd. And the vertrieben means to drive out or expel. But it can as well be used for distribution or selling. So, and there it's exactly the same as distribution. So I distribute something, I sell something. You can say it like that. Then you have verkaufen, which stems from kaufen or kaufen in Hochdeutsch. It means, kaufen means buy. So verkaufen means sell. And I put this into the position because I think, as we say to this day in trading, that you change the position and so forth. I think this stems from the fact that you were, or an object or whatever was sold, changed position from the seller side to the buyer side at the sales stand. And the last one will be vergolden, so which means to plate something with gold. Vergolden in German. A couple of more examples, but I keep them shorter. Verhangen, which comes from hanging around. I'm not sure when this word entered the Swiss German vocabulary. I'm not sure if it was older and then reintroduced like in the 90s or something, but I think it's from the English hanging around, and then we started using it as well. So verhangen means miss something or forgetting something, or screw up something. Then you have verbieten, which is literally forbid. It's the same word. Verschwören, so we had this one before, conspire, schwören, swear. Then we have verbinden, which comes from the word binden, which means to bind. And verbinden means to connect or to put a bandage on. Verstärken, Verstärken comes from stark. Stark. It's to make, verstärken is to make something stronger. Now, the next one is a little bit more difficult because it's nearly the same word, just pronounced a little bit different, but it has complete different meaning. So you have verlosen and verlosen. I repeat it, verlosen and verlosen. Verlosen comes from los, which is so verlosen means to raffle. But the los itself is the piece of paper where you have your numbers on, like the lottery ticket or the raffle ticket or whatever. And verlosen means to miss hear, which lose means hearing or listening. And now here, the English is nearer to the Swiss German than German because we differentiate hearing from listening. So hearing, höre, and listening, lose, whereas Germans only use hören. Now, verschlafen comes from schlafen, sleeping, so verschlafen, oversleeping, verlaufen from laufen. Now, it means getting lost. But in German, laufen means running. In Swiss German, laufen or laufe means walking. And lastly, Vertrag. So here the 80% rule doesn't work. It only works with Vertragen, because a Vertrag is a contract. Now, tragen is to carry. And the lens works if you have vertragen, because it means to tolerate, so you're able to bear the weight, so to speak. And yeah, vertrag means contract. So let's continue the story. At this point, I kind of have to give the information that, so don't worry, it's not going to be some religious class or anything. I'm not really religious, but I love stories and the thoughts that those stories create or stem from. And as nothing is produced in a vacuum, there's always a historic context, or in this instance, it's a religious context. So here we have the Schwurhand. The Schwurhand, so the three fingers up, represent the Trinity. In German, Dreifaltigkeit or Dreieinigkeit. In Swiss German, I ever only heard the Dreifaltigkeit. Now, I forgot to put it again. Here, the G is kind of not used, so you can say it with it or without. It's kind of optional, because if you say the K, the position where Swiss say the K, it pronounces already the G. So I do it without Dreifaltigkeit or with Dreifaltigkeit. It's practically the same. Then one finger is the Father, the Son. Oh, yeah, and exactly. Father, I would write it in Swiss German with an S, F, not with a V, because V would be pronounced like Velo, and not like in German, Vater with a V. And then the Son should be self-explanatory. The Holy Spirit. Now, there is expression like the Heilige Bimbam, which would be holy moly. So you kind of use that in some situations. But the actual thing I wanted to say is that I heard Americans differentiate between spirit, soul, and ghost. But that's kind of the same. Or in German, it's the same. Or at least Seel. And so soul and ghost is exactly the same and can be in most sentences used interchangeably. And the only difference is that you would use for the who ghost, you know, the one with the blanket on the head, you would use ghost. But else you have to specify it. So eine wandernde Seele, or a wandering soul, or a lost soul, or something like that, you would say. But else it's interchangeable. So from the last episode, I used the term the Geist voor de Schweiz, so the spirit of Switzerland. But you could say as well Zeel voor de Schweiz. Now, the next point is, or the next finger is, oh, I forgot to put it here, Körper, body, and written on the palm is Gerechtigkeit, which means justice. Now, this gesture is related to a way older gesture, which is the hand of Sabbatius, which in German I think it's called Sabbatius, but I'm not sure. And in Greek, something like Sabbathos or something. Anyway, because a lot of people treat like if you have Christian concepts as well, that the monotheism came or was produced immediately, but nothing starts in a vacuum. So if you have earlier concepts and they are related, they're not the same. There's not like one-to-one, but I would bet on it that the influence was from this gesture, because as well you kind of already have the Trinity implied, but from a Greek, I say from a Greek way. So you have the Father Zeus, the Son Dionysus, and then either Sabbatius, which is the official explanation, or what I think would actually make more sense and which would translate to the Holy Spirit afterwards is that the fun would be the monad. And as well, there are some figurines or figurines, where Sabbatius is actually sitting on the hand itself. So it wouldn't really make sense that that he is a finger if he's sitting on it. But anyway. And the other thing, it was used during Roman times, where it was used in combination with rhetoric, where it should project control and power and divine leadership. And I think this combination, if you know the Bible a little bit, is why there is the sentence, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It's actually this concept. And if somebody's now screaming like, "Oh no, the Bible is older," and so forth, no, the earliest thing we find about the Old Testament, or that it was practiced, is about 200 or 300 BC. And if you're interested about that, you can Google or search on YouTube for God Barnea. But anyway, I digress. The nearest hand gesture we have today would be to raise your hand and speak, which in Swiss German you would actually call aufstrecken. So a stretch up. Now let's continue with the story. There are a couple of happenings and quote-unquote battles which shaped Switzerland, where the Schlacht vom Moorgarten is probably the most famous one. Now, although it is certain that there was some conflict at Moorgarten, because it was written down in different chronicles, they haven't found anything yet. And from how it was written down, it seems it was an ambush. But just as a tiny, how you call it, interrupt or the explanation, not finding anything from something which happened like 700 or 800 years ago isn't that special. So there are a couple of occasions, not only in Switzerland, where they find anything and they know that battles or so on happened. So, as I said, this was probably more an ambush than a battle. And I think this depiction is really appropriate, because I think it's what happens. Because there are reports that a lot of people died of drowning. And you wouldn't just jump into a lake if you're fully armed and in armor, because the risk of drowning would be so great. So if you have the possibility and the routing already started, routing means that you start to run away. Jumping into water would mean certain death. So, and another point is that if you see what happens and you are certain you're going to die, you will fight to the end. This is actually a military tactic, which is called fighting with your back to a wall. And so I don't think this would have happened this way. I think this depiction actually shows it, because you can't fight a falling stone or a falling tree stump or something like that. And if you have like your colleague right next to you being crushed, you probably would try to take the escape into the water. So I think that is why so many people drowned, and they won in that, in that way. So here we have moor. A moor is marsh or swamp. Now in English there is moor as well, but I've never used it and I never heard it. I just, when I was preparing, I looked it up and I saw that there's moor. But yeah, I would call it a marsh or a swamp. Now, Garte is garden. Schlacht means slaughter or battle, depending on the context. Now, in English, they took the French word bataille, which stemmed from the Latin battuere, which means hit or strike, which also led to better or battery in English. And slaughter comes from the Old High German Schlacht, which also means hit or strike. Now, in Swiss German, hit or strike simply means schlau. So it's practically the same word. And it's not cannibalism if you hear in Swiss or in Switzerland, if you hear about the Schlachtplatte. It's not a battle plate. It's a plate from slaughter or from fresh slaughter. Now, some restaurants have those on a regular menu, but I would suggest if you want to try it, go to a Metzgete, where Metzg or Metzger, the Metzger is the butcher, and you can also use Metzge for slaughtering, but it's more a colloquial term. Then we have Hinterhalt, which means ambush. And hinterhältig means treacherous. Now, I looked it up, and some translation give you sneaky, but hinterhältig doesn't imply cunning. It simply implies that it's, how you say, treacherous, like it has a bad connotation. And not such a nice word, and I haven't written it down and so forth, would be hinterfotzig, where the second word is a reference, or it's like the C word for the lower private parts of a woman, but I will not say that on YouTube because it probably would give me a strike. So, while this illustration that I showed, it looks really nice, it's kind of misleading, as the cantons did not really join it at the same year. So the only one which actually joined at 1353 is Bern. You had, prior to that, Glarus at 52, Zug at 52, Zurich at 51, and Luzern at 32. The final victory was at the Schlacht von Sempach. But again, it's not a Schlacht, it's another ambush. Here we get another Swiss hero from, but this time it's actually one that existed. His name is Arnold Winkelried, or in Swiss German, Arnold Winkelried. The story goes that he led the Swiss to victory due to his bravery, because he grabbed as many spears as he could and pointed them to himself or into his chest, so that the Swiss could have a gap in the formation. It was a selfish death, where his heroic act led to the victory. You see this in every depiction of this battle. So you see it here, and the image I showed before. Here you see it in the middle as well. Just the spears are red. Here he's dead, lying on the spears. Here's the Winkelried Memorial from 1865 in Stans. Now, again, this doesn't make any sense. Formations will not break if you get 1, 2, 5 spears, and you surely will not get 10 spears. I mean, line up 10 people, and you see your arms cannot spread that far. So he would have to run around or something like that, and that doesn't make sense. So what's more plausible? If you look at an old map, we see that they were stopped in a corridor or in a narrow corridor. You see, we like our narrow corridors or alleys. Where to the south they had the lake, where probably some marshland in between, and to the north they had a dense forest on an elevated ground. And my guess would be that he and his men were hiding in the forest. So it was kind of like a double ambush, where first they were attacked from the front, and after the initial chaos where they tried to get into formation and so forth, they were ambushed from the forest as well. But I think this was kind of a suicide mission, because if you in a small group and you attack a way larger host, you will be surrounded pretty quickly. But it will weaken the vanguard or the Spitze, the front, and this could lead, or this led to the victory. Now, propaganda needs to be simple, short, and easily explained, so you can put it into art. And instead of trying to explain battle formations or so on to an illiterate peasant, you can say like, oh, he took all the spears onto himself, and he had this Freitod, which means he chose to die. There's a monument at Sempach. Oh, excuse me. Okay. There's a monument at Sempach as well, where it reads, hier hat Winkelried den Seinen eine Gasse gemacht. So, one-to-one translation, here has Winkelried made an alley for his own. Alley seems like a reference to Tell, so the hollow alley, and his own simply implies his own people. But Sempach was prior to the first reference from Tell in 1470, so the monument, as it is from 1886, it's clearly a later edition, not edition. So here we have the Sempach-Lied, and there are 5 or 6 verses. I just will, read the one which is related, or most related to Winkelried, and then explain some certain terms. Erhaltet mir Weib und Kind, die eurer Hut empfohlen sind. Ruft Struthahn, umfasst mit Manneskraft, drückt nieder der langen Speer Schaft, gräbt's in die weite Heldenbrust, mit Gott der Freiheit sich bewusst. So here we have Weib, which is Weib in Swiss German, and this is the old word for woman or wife, but I get to this because, or no, I can say like, Weib is one-to-one the word that led to wife, and in German you still say deine Frau if it's your woman, and eine Frau is a woman. But over the years, the word got a pejorative meaning, so don't use it directly. The way it's used today, it's only in a slightly pejorative but mostly joking way. So if you have a girlfriend or a wife which has a night out with her female friends, she might jokingly say that she has a Weiberabend. And for the word pejorative itself, pejorative in German would be abwertend. This can be used in Swiss German, but abwertend would be wert means worth or value. And if it implies a person, or if it's simply negative and not technical, you would take abschätzig. Because the abwertend you would use for, I don't know, a currency or something. That is abgewertet. Yeah. Where are we? So. Oh, and the other side doesn't work. Sorry, I forgot this one. Abschätzig. There is schätzen in German, but no abschätzig. Schätzen means to estimate. So I forgot that one. Then you have Hut, which simply means hat. But blieb auf der Hut means to watch out or stay on guard. This comes from the fact that hats were seen as protective clothing, and so it protects you from the elements. It's where the word, or where hood actually comes from. And so it's a protection, and if you have Obhut, it means that you have a head above you, so you have the protection above you. And this word means protective responsibility or custody. Like in English, you would say you take someone under one's wings, but in German it's kind of reverse because you don't put it under, you have the head above. This leads to the word hüte, which means to look after, but it's mainly used today for watching out for kids, so babysitting or something like that. So, how far are we? Half an hour in. At this point, I want to end the fourth episode with a mini heroes and villains. As Christmas is approaching, it made me remember of Reverend Sieber because every year he was on TV and always during Christmas time. And he was a reverend which looked out for the homeless and had the Fußbus, meaning the sleeping bus. So sleeping actually schlafen, but in Switzerland you can say as well Fuße, but it's colloquial. I cannot say this word. And he provided Obhut, as we just learned, for the Obdachlose. Now, Obdachlose means homeless. So you have Obdach, like Obhut. Dach means roof. So if you have Obdach, you have a roof above. Now, I'm not religious, as I said before, but or as the case is, I'm actually a little appalled by a lot of clergymen because, and it doesn't matter the religion, because a lot of them are hypocrites. But he was the personification of what a good and compassionate Christian should look like. I mean, he was looking out for the actual disenfranchised and unfortunate ones. And he did it like with a childlike innocence, which was really heartwarming. And I kind of miss that because it always reminds you of, okay, you should do a little bit better. Look at this guy. He goes out and helps everyone, even if they're dirty. And most people don't really, I mean, most people wouldn't say it, but most don't want to interact with such a kind, and he did it all the time, and so kind of missed that. And yeah, it always reminded me of what are we if we're not for our principles. So with that, I will start the Simpocherlied because I want to check if there are any questions, and if there are none, I say we have 2 weeks where there is no show, and then it's one time, and then I'm 2 weeks away for because of work, and then it continues just regularly. So I will start that one now and have a look. 1 second. So, seems like we have nothing. So, oops. With that being said, have a nice evening, nice Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Goodbye, everyone. Oh shit.